Hi, my name is Evan Rees, and I'm here today to speak with Jay Ogilvy, the head of Stratfor's editorial board, about the future of China and how it's perceived in the media today and by the West in general. So, welcome, Jay. It's nice to speak with you. You've had a very long history with China. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I wish it were longer. As of the late 80s, I was as ignorant as everybody else in the U.S. But then in the early 90s, plying my trade as a scenario planner, I was involved in projects first with Motorola, then with Monsanto to help them shape their strategy for entry into the China market. And then in 1996, got involved in a big project right at the end of the first Clinton administration on the U.S. policy towards China. And our work there had surprising significance. As a result of the scenarios we did on the future of China, the Clinton administration shifted its policy from containment, which was kind of ported over from the Russia policy, to constructive engagement. They came to see in several scenarios that China could be a stabilizing force in the Far East. And so that then led to further projects, hosting a conference in Hong Kong on the future of Hong Kong in 1997. And then 2001, again, another project on the future of Hong Kong. So this immersion in these projects taught me something.
Yeah, it's a huge subject, and there's so much to cover and understand about China. But you returned recently, and you were surprised at some of the things that you saw.
Right. After that project on the future of Hong Kong, going back to Hong Kong last November, where the future of Hong Kong looked fairly bright in the first project, I found myself in the middle of demonstrations about the oath-taking scandal. So there I found I experienced the tremendous tension over the one China, two systems policy. I heard again and again from people on my recent visit, it's going to be one China.
Which is surprising for some people because the narrative seems to be in the West that as China moves up and China grows economically, its political system is only going to open up and perhaps become more like Hong Kong.
Right. And I find myself doubting that story now, doubting that narrative. I mean, there's a kind of, the long-term narrative is of China rejoining the world, becoming the leading economy, and therefore inevitably democratizing. But there are a number of signals in addition to this oath-taking scandal. The anti-corruption campaign is necessary. I did a column early on entitled Exploring the Roots of Anti-Democratic Attitudes in China, which was largely about early 20th century intellectual Liang Qichao, who started his life as a fan of modernization, of westernization, but then after he did a whirlwind tour of the United States and Europe, and then back to Chinatown, where he experienced chaos in San Francisco, he turned. He felt that we Chinese are just not ready for democracy. And I think we're experiencing that kind of reaction now in China, that they may want to join the worldwide market economy, but that does not necessarily mean democratization. There are other signals. Capital flight. I mean, since 2015, over $500 billion net going out of the country, not just by businesses, but by private individuals. There's a wonderful reality TV show in Vancouver that is kind of a version of lifestyles of the rich and famous. They track young Chinese women on buying sprees. And that kind of expression of almost obscene wealth has led to, as the Economist put it last July, the new class war, that the Gini coefficient, the measure of inequality in China, has gone through the roof. So this is a real problem that is not going to have a happy ending, I think.
And you have spoken directly with some of your friends in China about this too, and their direct experiences with this.
Yeah. In my trip to Hong Kong, I spent most of the time with a bookseller. And I'm sure you are aware of the news about various booksellers in Hong Kong being abducted to the mainland,
taken back,
having their minds cleansed, and then sent back. My friend is a princeling. He's the son of the man who was chief of staff for Jiang Zemin, who lost the political battle about how to handle the problems in Tiananmen Square. And Jiang Zemin's chief of staff was thrown in jail for 8 years, while Jiang Zemin was put under house arrest for the rest of his life. So my friend is angry, and rightfully so. Human rights are being violated in China increasingly, not decreasingly.
And the situation in China has gotten a lot more attention. The darker picture of China has gotten a lot more attention in the past year.
Yes. A man I greatly respect, James Fallows, who spent a year in China 10 years ago, another year 5 years ago, and then several trips back starting a year and a half ago, comes back and writes for The Atlantic. Print journalism lives. An article that starts right out with the sentence, could China be going bad? And he uses that term not in the sense of morally bad, not simply in the sense of the economy possibly retreating, but his experience is one of increasing crackdown. How does he put it in one of his quotes? China's cracking down, closing up, and lashing out in ways different from its course in the previous 30-plus years. He writes that the previous 8 presidents have been reading basically from the same playbook, one of encouraging constructive engagement, favoring an opening up, and basically, as Clinton put it, and Obama as well, we are better off dealing with a healthy China, a growing China, than a suffering, weak China. That would be more dangerous. But we now are in danger of seeing a closing and a weakening of China that could be more trouble for us than a healthy, growing China.
Well, that certainly is a dark picture of the future, and we'll be covering it here at Stratfor as the situation develops. Thank you so much for speaking with us today, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
I look forward to it as well.